Okay, so this is going to be my Penn State Iowa preview and prediction. So Penn State desperately needs a win. They're 0-4, looking to avoid the worst start in school history, which would be 0-5. Penn State's never been 0-5 before. They're playing Iowa at home. It's basically a pick'em game. Iowa's 2-2. They've destroyed Michigan State and Michigan the last 2 weeks. Michigan State, and they beat Penn State last in 2010, but Penn State's really had a strong last few years against them. They've won the last six matchups, but that doesn't really mean anything this year because Penn State lost to Indiana, they lost to Maryland, teams that they always beat, and Nebraska, who on paper you would think Penn State would have beat going into the year. Iowa, they got a good running game. They have a couple decent receivers, but they've had some trouble at quarterback. The defense has looked better these last few weeks, but I don't think it's quite as good as it was last year. I don't think this Iowa team is as good as last year, but I don't think Penn State's as good. And now it looks like Pat Fryermuth won't be playing today. So now you're down your two best running backs from the start of the year, Fryermuth, and your best defensive player, maybe even the best defensive player in the country, from what most people would have thought would be the roster at the beginning of the year. So that's a big problem. At quarterback, Sean Clifford does not look good enough. I think Will Levis probably will get the start. I don't know. I could see Will Levis playing. I could also see Sean Clifford playing. I think Sean Clifford, you'll want to play him because you don't want to ruin his confidence, but at the same time, you got to go with the best guy, and he has not looked good enough. He's made too many issues, too many mistakes. 8 picks is too many. He's got to be better. Will Levis looked pretty good. Penn State's got to be better in the red zone, and they can't be turning the ball over. That's Sean Clifford's biggest problem. Penn State's able to move the ball at times with Sean Clifford, but he just gives the other team 10 points, where last year he wasn't turning the ball over much at all, and Penn State was great in the red zone. I think Penn State, they don't have the same explosive playmakers, so Penn State has to go on much longer drives than when they don't have where last year you have Hamler and Journey Brown, where you might have a four-play drive, where Sean Clifford's maybe warts don't get exposed as much. Penn State's defense has to be ready to go from the tip, from kickoff. I think I was leaning towards picking Penn State, but I think this Iowa defense is really starting to click now, and I just don't know with this Penn State offense, especially since Fryermuth's going to be out. I just don't see enough for Penn State's going to have to be able to get some run game going. If they can't get a run game going, they're not going to win, I don't think, especially if Will Levis is the quarterback. So they have a lot of issues from that whole perspective, and I think you're going to see that come up. And I think Iowa's not. I don't think they're going to murder our defense. I think our defense is going to be able to kind of control them at the run, try to make them pass. I just think Iowa's going to be able to get a little bit more out of their offense. I don't necessarily think their offense is better than ours. I just think they're going to have more success against our defense than I think we're going to really struggle against their defense. So I'm going to go Iowa 24-13, kind of a grinded out game. I think Penn State might play a little bit better at times. Maybe they don't have the costly turnovers, but I just think from a talent perspective, I think Penn State can beat Iowa. I just don't think they will from what I've seen so far this year. I think there's just too many things that Penn State screws up routinely that I can't pick them, honestly. I really can't, especially with Fryermuth out, who's going to be a first-round pick probably. So there it is. Let's hope that doesn't happen, but I'm going to pick Iowa 24-13 and easily cover. That's my pick.